Senator, how vulnerable is the dollar right now?
The dollar is very strong. The fact is that the dollar, even without the gold pool, which means a combination of 7 countries, including the United States, that have $27 billion of the $40 billion of gold in the world under its control, this is pledged to keep the present price of gold at its level of $35 an ounce. And the dollar is very strong also, not only because we have this $27 billion of gold available, but also because we have a very strong economy and a stable economy. We've suffered some inflation, but our inflation is far less than that in other countries in the world.
Well, can the speculation in gold, particularly in Paris, get out of hand to such proportions that our gold reserves would be completely foreclosed on?
I think it is very unlikely that the present speculation is going to result in any serious impact on our present gold reserve. Even if France wished to do all the damage that they could do to us, the fact is that in all of France there's only about $1 billion in dollars they could present and demand us to pay in gold. Other countries are cooperating with us, and other central banks are doing their best to support us, recognizing that a stable dollar and stable currencies throughout the world is in their interest, and that an instability could promote a world depression, which would hurt them as much as it hurts us.
Well, do you regard President de Gaulle's remarks as damaging?
Well, certainly President de Gaulle's remarks are challenging and do, I suppose, fan the flame of speculation and do tend to somewhat question the value of the dollar. But actually, I understand President de Gaulle's position. The fact is we've invested an enormous amount in France, and because we've invested so much in France, our corporations, American corporations, have great power, financial power, and I suppose political power in France. This is the kind of thing he's protesting. Of course, the fact is also that our tourists are spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year in France, dollars that can come back and represent a claim on our gold. We could cut this off, and I think maybe we will seriously consider doing so in the event that there should be a more serious challenge against our dollar.
Well, do you think the Senate should impose tighter restrictions to stem the outflow of capital?
I certainly think we have to watch this very closely, consider those restrictions carefully. At the present time, I think that we shouldn't rush into it, but I think that there should be, certainly if our gold position deteriorates very much more, we will have to consider further limitations. At the present time, however, they don't seem to be called for in view of the fact we have $13 billion worth of gold available if necessary.
But you wouldn't do it as retaliation?
No, I think I wouldn't do it on the basis of de Gaulle's statement or on the basis of what seems to be going on in France. The fact is that de Gaulle and France would benefit from the devaluation of the dollar. They have a great deal of gold, especially in proportion to their population and their industry. But the dollar is not going to be devalued, in my view.
Senator, there's another way to stop the outflow of money and also shore up the dollar at the same time, and that's pass a tax bill. Paul's advocacy of returning to the gold standard. Is this romantic yearning, or is there some...
The British pound is devalued. What effect does the current gold rush or the rush to buy gold have on the pound, and is it in danger of being further devalued?
I think that the British, of course, recognize that if they devalued too much, they went more than 14 or 15%, that many other countries would join in as they did last time in 1949 when they devalued. The result would be a washout. In other words, if Britain devalues and then all other countries devalue too, there's no overall impact. So that I think they went about as far as they could. I think they're going to be successful. It's a moderate devaluation. I don't think that this present rush, which could easily be predicted for gold and against the dollar, is going to have a serious effect on the pound. I certainly hope not.
But doesn't devaluing currency, much as the British have done, represent a loss of confidence in the government in Great Britain, as perhaps it also may represent a loss of confidence in the United States fiscal policies?
I think devaluation does not necessarily represent that. I think we should keep our shirts on this devaluation, recognize that Canada, for example, has many, many times over the past few years devalued, revalued their dollar in relationship to ours. Very little alarm about it. I suppose this British devaluation is somewhat bigger than most of the Canadian devaluations have been, but I think it's a little more significant because, after all, Canada is a growing country. Britain is a much smaller country now and a much smaller factor than it used to be. Our difficulty, I think, is that we're not catching up historically. We still feel that Britain is the center of international finance. It is not. The United States is.
Thank you.
No, off the camera.